Chosen one, why are you still awake at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, wondering if God has forgotten your name? Why does your heart feel like it's carrying stones when everyone else seems to float through life? Why do you feel more alone now, in your 70s or 80s, than you ever did in your youth? Stop. Right where you are. Stop and listen. If this message has found you right now, it is not a coincidence. Heaven has stopped you in your tracks, not by chance, not by accident, not by algorithm, but by divine appointment. The Creator of the universe has interrupted your scrolling, your restless night, your quiet desperation, because He has something urgent to say. Imagine your phone ringing at midnight. The caller ID shows eternity. Do you silence it and roll over, or do you recognize this could be the call that changes everything? Right now, beloved, that phone is ringing, and the voice on the other end is the Almighty Himself. You've been through more storms than most people could survive. You've buried dreams along with loved ones. You've watched your body betray you, your savings shrink, your children grow distant. Those sleepless nights when you whispered prayers into the darkness thinking no one heard, He was listening. Every tear that fell on your pillow at 4 a.m. was collected in heaven's bottles. But here's the shocking truth they never told you. Your pain wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Every closed door wasn't rejection. It was redirection toward this exact moment when God says, now I speak. You see, while you've been wondering if you matter anymore, if your best days are behind you, if maybe you should just fade quietly into the background, heaven has been taking notes. Your faithfulness in the wilderness, your worship through the waiting, your refusal to curse God when life crushed you. That wasn't just endurance, dear one. That was qualification. Before we go deeper into what God is burning to tell you, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating. You're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Spirit lead your heart. But right now, I need you to do something that might feel strange. I need you to say out loud, yes, out loud, the number 777, or type it in the comments if you're watching. This isn't superstition. This is how heaven knows you're listening. That's how you declare to the spiritual realm that you're ready to receive what the Almighty is about to pour out. Because God is calling you now. Don't ignore Him. What He has to say will change everything about your next season, and it can't wait another day. Do you know what it feels like to have the Creator of the universe call your name and you pretend you didn't hear? Do you realize that right now, while you're sitting there wondering if your life still matters, God is speaking so loudly that heaven itself is holding its breath? Do you understand that this moment, this very second, could be your last chance to hear what He's been trying to tell you for decades? Listen to me, dear one. God's voice isn't background music while you live your life. It's not elevator music in the waiting room of existence. His voice is fire burning through every excuse, every doubt, every lie that whispers you're too old, too broken, too forgotten to matter anymore. You've been living with whispers when God wants to thunder. You've been settling for silence when heaven is screaming your name. And the enemy, oh, the enemy knows exactly what he's doing. He's turned down the volume on God's voice, while turning up the noise of your pain, your regrets, your fear that maybe you've missed your moment. But here's what will shock you to your core. God doesn't whisper when it matters most. He roars. Think about Moses, 80 years old your age, maybe older. Tending sheep in the wilderness, convinced his best days were buried in Egyptian sand 40 years behind him. Then came the burning bush. Exodus 3-4 says, "When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush, 'Moses, Moses.'" Not a gentle suggestion, a divine summons. A voice so powerful it stopped a tired old shepherd in his tracks and turned him into the deliverer of nations. You think God's voice has gotten quieter with age? Moses would disagree. But here's the terrifying truth about God's voice. It comes with an expiration date, not because God stops speaking, but because our hearts grow hard, our ears grow dull, our spirits grow satisfied with surviving instead of thriving. Look what happened to Jonah. God's voice came with crystal clarity. Go to Nineveh. Simple, direct, unmistakable. But Jonah ran. He bought a ticket on a ship heading in the opposite direction, thinking he could outrun the voice of the Almighty. Jonah 1:17 tells us what happened next. The Lord provided a huge fish to swallow Jonah. 3 days in the belly of darkness because he ignored God's call. How many of you are living in your own whale right now? That depression that won't lift, that loneliness that follows you into every room, that financial pressure that keeps you awake at night. What if I told you it's not punishment? It's God's desperate attempt to get your attention. What if your whale is actually God's waiting room, and He's about to call your name for the greatest assignment of your life? The fish didn't kill Jonah. It delivered him. And whatever has swallowed you, grief, illness, isolation, God is about to use it to deliver you to your destiny. But here's where it gets personal. Here's where heaven looks directly at you, sitting there in your living room, in your kitchen, maybe in your hospital bed. Why is God speaking now? Why you? Why in this exact moment of your life when you feel more invisible than ever? Because urgency has an address, and it's written in your handwriting. Esther didn't feel ready when Mordecai told her the Jews faced genocide. She was young, afraid, living a comfortable life as queen. But Esther 4:14 thunders across history. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? Not someday, not when you feel ready, for such a time as this. Your such a time as this isn't coming, beloved. It's here, right now. While you're sitting there wondering if anyone would notice if you were gone, God is positioning you for a moment that will echo through eternity. That restlessness in your spirit, that's not old age. That's God stirring up gifts that have been dormant too long. Those dreams that wake you up at night, those aren't memories, they're prophecies. That ache in your chest when you see the world falling apart, that's not depression, that's intercession. And God is calling you to prayer that will shift the spiritual atmosphere over your family, your community, your nation. You want to know why the enemy has been hitting you so hard, why every door seems to slam shut just when hope appears? Because he knows something you've forgotten. He knows what happens when a senior saint who has nothing left to lose finally hears God's voice clearly. He knows that your prayers carry the weight of decades. Your faith has been tested by fire. Your worship comes from a place of proven faithfulness. The devil isn't afraid of young believers with untested faith. He's terrified of seasoned saints who know how to stand in the storm because they've weathered every tempest life could throw at them. This isn't a gentle suggestion from a distant deity. This is a divine decree from the throne of heaven. Your name is written on this word. Your address is known in the courts of eternity. And God is saying, I've been patient. I've been waiting. But now it's time. Why now? Because America needs elders who remember what faith looks like when everything falls apart. Because your family needs someone who won't bend when the world tries to break them. Because there are people in your sphere of influence who are drowning in despair, and they need to see what it looks like when someone refuses to give up on God, even when God seems to have given up on them. But here's the warning that should make your blood run cold. This window won't stay open forever. The revelation God is about to release will explain every unanswered prayer, every closed door, every storm you've survived. But only if you stay until the end. Only if you refuse to let another divine appointment slip through your fingers. So I'm asking you, no, I'm pleading with you, don't you dare click away. Don't you dare silence heaven's call. Because what God is about to reveal will not only change your next season, it will rewrite your entire legacy. You know what nobody talks about when they're handing out those golden years greeting cards? The weight. The crushing weight of watching everything you built start to crumble. The weight of sitting in that doctor's office, hearing words that change everything. The weight of staring at bills that don't care about your fixed income. You've buried more than loved ones, haven't you? You've buried pieces of yourself. Every time you lowered that casket, a part of your heart went down with it. Your spouse of 53 years, your best friend since high school, maybe even your own child. And each funeral felt like God was taking away another reason to keep going. You've sat at that kitchen table at 2 a.m., calculator in one hand, bills in the other, doing the same desperate math over and over again, praying it would somehow add up different this time, wondering how you went from a lifetime of work to choosing between your heart medication and groceries. The doctors gave you that look. You know the one. The look that says, at your age. The look that makes you feel like you're already halfway to the grave. The diagnosis that turned your body into a stranger. The treatments that made you wonder if fighting was worth it anymore. But here's what's breaking my heart right now. You think these battles mean God forgot about you. You think the silence means he stopped listening. You think because your prayers didn't get answered the way you expected, that somehow you failed him. Listen to me, chosen one. Stop carrying that lie. Job lost everything in a single day. His children, his wealth, his health, his reputation. His own wife told him to curse God and die. For months, he sat in ashes, scraping his boils with pottery, wondering what he'd done wrong. But Job 42:12 tells us, the Lord blessed the latter part of Job's life more than the former part. More than the former part. Not equal to. More than. Joseph was 17 when his brothers threw him in a pit and sold him like cattle. 17 years old, betrayed by his own blood, dragged to a foreign land in chains, then falsely accused, thrown in prison, forgotten for years. But Genesis 41:40 records Pharaoh saying, "You shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your orders." From pit to palace, from prisoner to prime minister, David was so small, so insignificant, that when the prophet came looking for the next king, his own father forgot to call him in from the fields. Even his brothers mocked him when he faced Goliath. "Who do you think you are?" they sneered. But 1 Samuel 16:13 says, "From that day on the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David." Every battle you've faced, every scar you carry, every night you've wept until you had no tears left, none of it was punishment. None of it was God turning his back on you. It was preparation. You see, gold doesn't become precious by sitting in comfort. It becomes valuable by being thrust into the furnace, heated to 1948 degrees Fahrenheit, until everything impure is burned away. What emerges isn't damaged goods. What emerges is refined, purified, worth more than when it went in. Every diagnosis was the furnace removing your dependence on your own strength. Every financial struggle was fire burning away your trust in earthly security. Every loss was heat purifying your understanding of what truly matters. You didn't break under that pressure. You were being refined, but the enemy has been whispering lies in your ear for decades. If God loved you, your husband wouldn't have died. If you were faithful enough, the cancer wouldn't have come back. If you were truly blessed, you wouldn't be struggling financially. Those whispers aren't from heaven, they're from hell, trying to make you forfeit the very crown your suffering has earned you. Here's the truth that's going to shatter every lie you've believed about your struggles. Your scars aren't signs of defeat. They're seals of a warrior. Every battle wound is evidence that you survived what was meant to destroy you. The world looks at your arthritis and sees limitation. Heaven looks at those hands and sees decades of faithful service. The world sees your gray hair and thinks over the hill. God sees a crown of glory earned through years of walking with him through fire. Isaiah 43:2 declares, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze." Notice it doesn't say if you pass through fire. It says when, because fire is part of the refining process for every chosen vessel. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to realize. The very battles that were meant to destroy your faith have actually proven it. You're still here, you're still believing, you're still standing when weaker souls would have crumbled. That's not accident, that's anointing. What if those sleepless nights weren't evidence of God's absence, but proof of His presence? What if He was with you in every hour of darkness, holding you together when you felt like falling apart? What if your survival itself is the miracle you've been praying for? Your pain has been the training ground for your promotion. Every tear has been stored in heaven's bottles. Every prayer whispered in desperation has been recorded in eternal archives. And heaven is saying, enough, the season of struggle is closing. But the question that will determine everything about your next chapter is this: will you continue to see yourself as a victim of your battles, or will you finally recognize yourself as the victor who survived them all? You've felt it your whole life, haven't you? That strange knowing, that sense that you're different from everyone else around you, while others seem content with surface conversations and weekend football games. Something deeper burns inside your chest, something that makes you question everything, something that makes you feel like a stranger in your own family gatherings. Dear chosen one, what you've been calling your weirdness is actually your anointing. What you've been ashamed of is exactly what qualifies you for heaven's most sacred assignments. Tonight, I'm going to reveal the 3 unmistakable marks that prove you are not ordinary. You are not random. You carry the fingerprints of the Almighty on your very soul. Mark number 1. Spiritual sensitivity. The radar of heaven. You walk into a room and immediately feel the weight. Before anyone speaks a word, you know who's hurting. Before the doctor delivers the diagnosis, your spirit already sensed the shadow. Before the phone rings with bad news, something in your chest tightened up. Others call this anxiety. Heaven calls this discernment. Listen to me carefully. You are not mentally unstable. You are spiritually activated. Your soul operates on a frequency most people can't even detect. Like a radar system designed by God Himself, you pick up spiritual storms before others see the first cloud. Remember Elisha in 2 Kings chapter 6? This man could hear conversations happening in enemy bedrooms miles away. The king of Syria was furious, thinking there was a spy in his army, but his servants told him the truth. Elisha, the prophet who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel the very words that you speak in your bedroom. That same supernatural sensitivity runs through your bloodstream right now. You've probably spent decades trying to shut it off, trying to be normal, trying to ignore the warnings your spirit receives at 3 a.m. about people you love. But what if I told you God gave you this gift not to torment you, but to protect the people around you? What if your sleepless nights are actually prayer assignments? What if that heavy feeling in your chest isn't depression, but intercession? You are the smoke detector in a house full of people who don't smell the fire yet. Mark number 2, the attraction of pure hearts. Here's something that might shock you. Have you ever noticed how children gravitate toward you without explanation? How animals seem drawn to your presence? How babies stop crying when you hold them, and even the most aggressive dogs become calm around you? That's not coincidence, beloved. That's recognition. Pure hearts recognize pure hearts. Innocence identifies innocence. Children and animals haven't learned to hide behind masks yet. They can see what adults have trained themselves to ignore: the light of heaven radiating from your spirit. Your presence is like a lighthouse in a spiritual storm. Those who are lost in darkness are naturally drawn to authentic light. But here's what breaks my heart. You've probably been told to dim that light, to tone it down, to be less intense. They were wrong. Jesus said in Matthew 5:16, "Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." He didn't say, "Let your light flicker." He didn't say, "Let your light blend in." He said, "Let it shine." But here's the mystery most people miss. While you're attracting the innocent, you're also disturbing the guilty. This is why certain people feel uncomfortable around you without knowing why. This is why some family members avoid deep conversations with you. This is why you've been excluded from social circles. Your very presence exposes what people are trying to hide. You make them remember who they used to be before life hardened their hearts. Mark number 3. The creative mind thoughts that shape reality. Now this third mark might frighten you, but it shouldn't. You've noticed it, haven't you? The things you think about deeply, they tend to manifest. The dreams you hold in your heart, they have a way of becoming real. The words you speak in faith, they carry unusual weight. This isn't positive thinking, dear one. This is co-creation with the Almighty. Proverbs 23:7 declares, "As a man thinks in his heart, so is he." Your mind isn't just processing random thoughts. It's operating as a divine workshop where heaven downloads blueprints for earth. Look at Steve Harvey. Born in West Virginia, slept in his car for 3 years, was homeless and broke, but he held a vision in his mind of hosting television shows, making people laugh, creating a legacy. That vision refused to die, even when his circumstances screamed impossible. Today, Steve Harvey's net worth exceeds $200 million. His thoughts literally reshaped his reality. But here's what most people don't understand. This wasn't just determination. This was divine co-creation in action. Your thoughts carry creative power because you carry the image of the Creator. Genesis 1:27 says, "So God created mankind in his own image." When God thinks, worlds appear. When you think, really think, with faith, circumstances shift. This is why the enemy has worked so hard to fill your mind with doubt, fear, and limitation. He knows that if you ever fully realize the power flowing through your thought life, his kingdom would be in serious trouble. But here's the question that will determine everything. What are you creating with your thoughts right now? Are you building or destroying? Are you speaking life or death over your situation? The divine convergence. Listen to me, chosen one. If you recognized yourself in even one of these marks, if you felt that stirring in your chest, that confirmation in your spirit, you are not imagining things. You are not delusional. You are marked by heaven itself. These 3 signs don't operate independently. They work together like a spiritual symphony. Your sensitivity alerts you to what needs to be addressed. Your pure heart draws the right people into your orbit. Your creative mind shapes the solutions that heal broken situations. You are a walking miracle waiting to be activated. You are a sleeping giant that God is calling awake. Right now, I want you to do something that might feel vulnerable. I want you to write down in the comments or in your journal which of these 3 marks you recognize in yourself. Don't analyze it, don't question it, just declare it. Because these marks are heaven's fingerprints on you. You are not ordinary. You are not random. You are not a mistake. You are chosen. And if you're chosen, then everything changes. If you're chosen, then your pain has purpose. If you're chosen, then your struggles were strategic. If you're chosen, then your time is now. But being chosen comes with a responsibility. And that responsibility is about to shatter every excuse you've made about why your life hasn't changed yet. Let me tell you something that will chill your bones and wake your spirit all at once. There's a sound that haunts the corridors of eternity. It's not the weeping of angels or the roar of thunder. It's something far more terrifying. It's the sound of silence. The silence that follows when God stops calling your name. You think he'll keep calling forever. You believe his voice will echo through your life indefinitely, waiting for you to finally pay attention. Listen carefully, chosen one. Even the Almighty's patience has limits. Even divine love can be grieved away. Jonah found this out the hard way. God called him to Nineveh. Simple assignment, clear direction. But Jonah said, "No, Lord. Not now, not me, not there." So he ran, boarded a ship, heading the opposite direction, thinking he could outrun the voice of heaven. 3 days in the belly of a whale later, Jonah learned something that will shake you to your core. You can ignore God's voice, but you cannot escape God's consequences. That whale wasn't punishment, it was mercy. It was God's last-ditch effort to get Jonah's attention before it was too late, before the moment passed, before Nineveh fell without a warning. How many whales has God sent into your life? The Israel generation that left Egypt learned this lesson in the most heartbreaking way possible. They heard God's voice at Mount Sinai. They saw his miracles daily, manna every morning, water from rocks, his presence in a pillar of fire by night. But when it came time to enter the promised land, they chose fear over faith. They chose doubt over divine direction. They chose their own understanding over God's unmistakable voice. 40 years, an entire generation died wandering in circles because they ignored what God was telling them. 40 years of eating dust when they could have been eating grapes. 40 years of sleeping on sand when they could have been resting in cities they didn't build. The promised land was right there, one step of faith away. But they turned their backs on his voice. Dear one, how many promised lands have you missed because you ignored his whisper? How many marriages could have been saved if you'd listened when he said, forgive? How many children could have been restored if you'd heard him say, call them? How many dreams could have flourished if you'd obeyed when he said, start? Your life is not a dress rehearsal. This is it, this moment, this breath, this heartbeat, this divine interruption breaking into your ordinary Tuesday night. You've lived long enough to know regret, haven't you? That bitter taste that settles in your mouth at 3 a.m. when you remember the roads not taken, the words not spoken, the chances not seized. How many times have you whispered to yourself, if only I had listened? That job opportunity in 1987 that seemed too risky. God was opening a door, but fear made you ignore his nudge. That relationship that could have bloomed if you'd followed his leading instead of your logic. That move across the country when he said, go, but you said, stay. Those weren't random moments. Those were God speaking. And when you ignored his voice, you didn't just miss an opportunity. You missed a piece of your destiny. But here's what will shake you to your very foundation. This moment right now might be your last chance. Moses was 80 when God called him from the burning bush. 80 years old. But when that voice spoke, Moses had a choice. He could have said, Lord, I'm too old. My speech isn't good. Find someone younger. He could have walked away from that bush and spent his final years tending sheep. Instead, he said yes, and became the greatest deliverer in human history. Sarah was 90 when God promised her Isaac. 90. She could have laughed it off as impossible, as too late, as God speaking to someone else. Instead, she embraced the promise and became the mother of nations. You're sitting here tonight thinking you're too old, too tired, too broken for God to use. But what if this isn't the sunset of your life? What if this is the sunrise of your purpose? Every gray hair on your head represents wisdom earned through fire. Every wrinkle tells a story of endurance. Every scar bears witness to your survival. You're not past your prime. You're prime for God's plan. But he won't wait forever. Esther had one moment to speak up and save her people. One audience with the king. One chance to fulfill her destiny. Mordecai's words ring through history. Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? This is your such a time as this moment. If you ignore God's voice now, if you let this message fade into the noise of your daily routine, if you treat this as just another sermon to forget by morning, you risk missing the very thing you've been praying for your entire life. This is not another sermon. This is your burning bush moment, your Jordan River crossing, your Esther decree. The God who stopped time for Joshua, who opened wombs for the barren, who raised the dead for the grieving, that same God, is calling your name right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. I need you to stop everything. Put down whatever is in your hands. Look up toward heaven and say these words out loud. Lord, I hear you. I will not ignore you. Say it like you mean it. Say it like your destiny depends on it, because it does. The sound of silence that haunts eternity isn't God's silence, it's ours. It's the silence of those who had their chance to answer and chose to stay quiet. Don't let that be your eternal soundtrack. Don't let your last breath carry the weight of words unspoken, chances untaken, and a voice unheeded. Because what God is about to reveal to you next will either become the greatest chapter of your life or the greatest regret of your death. Listen to me, dear one. I know what you've been carrying. The weight of 70, 80, maybe 90 years of watching dreams die slow deaths. You've stood at gravesides and buried more than bodies you've buried hopes. You've watched your body betray you, joint by joint, memory by memory. You've seen your bank account shrink while your medical bills multiply like weeds in an abandoned garden. But what if everything you think you know about your final chapters is wrong? What if the very thing that makes you feel forgotten your age is actually your greatest qualification for what God is about to do? What if those silver streaks in your hair aren't signs of decline, but crowns of glory that heaven has been waiting to activate? You see, the enemy has been running the cruelest con game in history on America's seniors. He's convinced you that retirement means retiring from God's purposes, that Medicare age means your miracle age is over, that Social Security is all the security you'll ever have. But Joel 2:25 shatters that lie with divine thunder. I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten, not some of the years, not a few of the years, all the years the locust has eaten. Every stolen dream, every wasted season, every moment you felt invisible. God isn't just promising restoration, He's promising multiplication. Look at Job, stripped of everything at what most would call his prime. His children dead, his wealth gone, his health destroyed. His wife told him to curse God and die. But when God restored Job, He didn't just give him back what he lost. Job 42:10 declares that the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. Twice as much. That's not restoration, that's divine mathematics. And you, sitting there wondering if your best days are behind you, what if your double portion is just beginning? I'm talking to the grandmother who raised 5 children and thinks her purpose died with her last empty nest. I'm talking to the grandfather who built a career with his hands but now watches those same hands shake with age. You think your story is winding down. But what if it's winding up? Consider this. Grandma Moses didn't pick up a paintbrush until she was 78 years old. 78! She painted over 1,500 works of art and became one of America's most celebrated artists. The world saw an old woman with arthritic hands. God saw a master waiting to emerge. Colonel Harlan Sanders was 65, broke, and living on Social Security when he franchised his chicken recipe. 65. He'd been rejected 1,009 times, 1,009 times, before someone finally said yes. Today, KFC feeds millions across the globe. The world saw a tired old man. God saw an empire waiting to be born. Your age isn't your expiration date, it's your activation code. But here's what breaks my heart about so many of you listening right now. You've been programmed to accept less, to settle for survival instead of breakthrough, to believe that your prayers carry less weight because your voice is quieter, your steps are slower. That's not just wrong, it's blasphemous. Your prayers don't get weaker with age, they get stronger. Every decade of faithfulness adds authority to your intercession. Every year of trusting God through storms builds spiritual muscle that can move mountains. The Bible doesn't say, and these signs will follow those who believe unless they're over 70. No, Mark 16:17 makes no age restrictions on miracles. Your wisdom isn't outdated, it's priceless. In a world drunk on information but starving for wisdom, you carry something that can't be Googled, can't be downloaded, can't be taught in any university. You've watched God work for decades. You've seen Him make ways when there was no way. You've witnessed His faithfulness when everything else failed. That's not just experience, that's ammunition. And your tears, every single one of them that fell in silence, thinking nobody cared. Psalm 56:8 says, God has put my tears in your bottle. He's been collecting them. storing them. And now he's about to pour them out as liquid answers to prayers you thought he never heard. But you have to stop agreeing with the culture of decline. You have to stop accepting the lie that your latter years must be lesser years. Because God is about to turn that equation upside down. Think about wine. The older it gets, the more valuable it becomes. The longer it ages, the richer its flavor, the deeper its complexity. You're not wine that's gone bad, you're wine that's reached its perfect vintage. And God is about to uncork you for His glory. Right now, as I'm speaking these words, something is shifting in the spiritual atmosphere over your life. Can you feel it? That stirring in your chest, that quickening in your spirit. That's not nostalgia, that's prophecy. That's God saying, your winter is over, your spring has come. Isaiah 43:19 declares, behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. Your wilderness isn't your final destination. It's the place where God is about to perform His greatest miracle. You are not running out of time. You are right on God's time. And the question burning in heaven right now isn't whether you deserve restoration, it's whether you'll receive it. Will you finally stop seeing sunset and start seeing sunrise? Will you trade your rocking chair for your throne? Because what God is about to reveal next will show you exactly how to step from surviving into thriving, no matter how many birthdays you've celebrated. Earlier I asked you why God is speaking now. Why you? Why today? Here's the answer that will shatter everything you thought you knew about your pain. Listen carefully. Chosen one, that heart attack at 67 that left you gasping for breath on your kitchen floor, that wasn't your body giving up on you. That was God pressing pause on a life that was moving too fast to hear His voice. That divorce after 38 years of marriage that left you sleeping alone in a house full of memories, that wasn't failure. That was divine redirection away from someone who would have kept you small when God needed you large. Every single hardship you've endured has been a divine filter, separating what was meant for you from what was meant to stop you. But here's what breaks my heart. You've been apologizing for your scars when heaven sees them as credentials. You've been hiding your wounds when God intended them as your weapons. You've been living like damaged goods when the Almighty crafted you as dangerous goods, dangerous to every force of hell that tried to destroy what He was building inside you. Think about this for 60 seconds. Why are you still breathing when the statistics said you shouldn't be? Why did you survive that cancer when the doctors gave you 6 months? Why did you keep your sanity when your mind should have shattered under the weight of losing 3 family members in 2 years? Because you carry something hell was desperate to destroy before it fully developed. Every betrayal you faced was divine redirection. That business partner who stole your life savings, he wasn't robbing you, he was redirecting you away from a path that would have made you wealthy but kept you spiritually bankrupt. That church that turned their backs on you when you needed them most. They weren't rejecting you, they were launching you into a deeper relationship with God, where no human opinion could touch your worth. You are like a seed buried deep underground. People thought you were gone. Your own family whispered that maybe your best days were behind you. But God knew something they couldn't see. You weren't being buried, you were being planted. And what they thought was your grave was actually your growing place. Look at Joseph, 17 years old with dreams that made his brothers want to murder him. They threw him in a pit, sold him into slavery, watched him disappear over the horizon in chains. For 13 years, 13 long years, it looked like those dreams were dead. Prison, betrayal, forgotten by those he helped. But Genesis 41:14 records the moment everything changed. So Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and he was quickly brought from the dungeon. From dungeon to throne room in 24 hours. Why? Because every year in that pit, every night in that prison, every moment of feeling forsaken was God preparing Joseph for a responsibility so massive that only someone refined by suffering could handle it. You've been in your pit for decades, haven't you? Watching others get promoted while you stayed stuck. Seeing younger people receive opportunities you deserved. Feeling like God forgot your address while he was blessing everyone else's mailbox. But what if I told you that pit was your preparation room? What if every year you spent wondering why me? Was God answering? Because only you can handle what's coming next. Look at Abraham, 75 years old when God promised him nations would come from his loins. Sarah laughed at 90 because her womb had been a graveyard of hope for decades. But Genesis 21:2 declares, Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. At the very time. Not early, not late. At the very time God had marked on heaven's calendar before time began. Your very time is now. Every unanswered prayer you've whispered into the darkness hasn't disappeared into thin air. Revelation 5-8 tells us they're stored in heaven as incense in golden bowls before the throne of God. That prayer for your prodigal son in 1987, still burning. That desperate cry for financial breakthrough in 2001, still rising. That plea for healing in 2019, still moving the heart of the Almighty. Those weren't ignored prayers, beloved. They were building pressure in the spiritual realm, creating a volcanic eruption of blessing that's about to blow the roof off your life. Here's the truth that will either liberate you or terrify you. What broke others built you. What crushed others crowned you. What destroyed others deployed you. That's why you're still here, not as a survivor, but as a secret weapon. Heaven has been forging in the furnace of adversity. The enemy thought those 40 years of financial struggle would make you bitter. Instead, they taught you that God is your source when every earthly well runs dry. He thought that season of loneliness would make you desperate for any human approval. Instead, it drove you into such intimate communion with the Father that his opinion became the only one that mattered. You think you're damaged goods, limping toward the finish line, but God sees you as dangerous goods, loaded with enough spiritual firepower to demolish strongholds that have tormented your family for generations. That's why you are still here, chosen one. Because you are chosen. But the question that will determine whether this revelation transforms you or merely inspires you is this. Now that you know why God chose you, will you finally choose to believe him? Listen to me very carefully, chosen one. Because what I'm about to reveal will shatter every lie you've believed about your suffering, every betrayal that cut you to the bone, every financial collapse that left you choosing between medication and groceries, every sleepless night when depression whispered you should just give up. That wasn't random. That wasn't bad luck. That was warfare. The enemy was never afraid of your past. He was terrified of your future. That's why the attacks came when you were weakest. That's why the storms hit when you least expected. Like a spiritual sniper positioned in the shadows, he struck before your destiny could bloom. Just as Goliath taunted David before the crown could rest on his head. You see, the devil doesn't waste ammunition on empty targets. He doesn't deploy his fiercest demons against people who pose no threat to his kingdom. But you've been in his crosshairs since birth because hell saw what heaven placed inside you. Think about Job. The Bible says he was blameless and upright, yet Satan specifically requested permission to destroy him. Why? Because Job's righteousness was a weapon against darkness. Job 1-8 records God saying, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. You are Job in this generation." But here's what breaks my heart. You've been blaming yourself, haven't you? Wondering what you did wrong, why your marriage crumbled, why your children turned distant, why your body betrayed you, why every door you approached slammed shut just as your hand reached for the handle. Dear soul, you didn't fail. You were targeted. Every financial attack wasn't because you're bad with money. It was spiritual robbery designed to keep you dependent and distracted. Every relationship betrayal wasn't because you're unlovable. It was a calculated assault to make you build walls around your heart. Every health crisis wasn't just genetics. It was warfare aimed at your strength and your faith. He tried to break you, but you're still here. He tried to silence you, but you're still speaking. He tried to bury you, but you're still rising. That's not luck. That's proof you carry something hell cannot destroy. Look at Moses. For 40 years, he wandered in the wilderness while his calling burned inside him like trapped lightning. 40 years of thinking he'd missed his moment, blown his chance, lost his purpose. But God wasn't punishing Moses in that desert. God was protecting him. Because the enemy knew that when Moses finally stood before Pharaoh, empires would tremble. David ran through caves like a fugitive while wearing the oil of kingship. Years of hiding, wondering if Samuel's prophecy was just a cruel dream. But those weren't years of defeat. Those were years of preparation. Because when God's chosen ones finally step into their authority, the earth itself takes notice. Right now, some of you are thinking, but why me? Why has my life been so much harder than others? Because ordinary people don't threaten hell's agenda. Comfortable people don't birth revival. Those who've never been tested can't be trusted with the weight of God's glory. The intensity of your warfare was the measure of your anointing. Isaiah 54:17 declares, "No weapon forged against you will prevail. Not some weapons, not most weapons, no weapon. Every scheme designed to destroy you has failed, because failure is the only option when hell goes to war with heaven's agenda." But why has the battle been so long? Why has the resistance been so fierce? Because the greater the destiny, the greater the opposition. You haven't been fighting random demons. You've been facing principalities and powers that recognize exactly what you're carrying. That depression that nearly took you out, it was hell trying to silence the voice that would one day speak life over the dying. That addiction that gripped your family, it was an attempt to pervert the very bloodline through which deliverance would flow. That betrayal from your closest friend, it was spiritual sabotage, because the enemy knew your loyalty would one day rally an army. Every attack was actually confirmation of your calling. Think about this. When Herod heard about the birth of Jesus, what was his response? Matthew 2:16 tells us he ordered the massacre of every baby boy in Bethlehem. Why such extreme measures? Because the enemy knew something was coming that would shatter his kingdom forever. The same thing happened to you, not with physical swords, but with spiritual warfare designed to kill your purpose before it could manifest. Every door that slammed shut when you were reaching for breakthrough, every opportunity that evaporated just as success seemed within grasp, every moment when you felt forgotten by God and forsaken by man, that was hell's preemptive strike against your future. But here's what the enemy didn't count on. You're still standing. After everything he threw at you, you're still breathing. You're still believing. You're still here, watching this message, feeling that familiar fire stirring in your chest. Your survival wasn't accident. Your endurance wasn't willpower. Your refusal to quit was supernatural grace protecting what God planted in you before time began. 2 Corinthians 4:17 says it perfectly. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. Your troubles weren't punishments. They were investments. Every tear was building treasures. Every trial was constructing triumph. The enemy made one fatal mistake. He showed his hand too early. By attacking you so viciously, he revealed that you're carrying something he desperately wants to stop. And now that you know why you've been under fire, you can finally fight back with purpose. Hell knows your name. That's why heaven is shouting it louder tonight. But the real question burning in the spiritual realm right now is this. Now that you understand why the warfare was so intense, are you ready to discover what you're actually carrying that made hell so afraid? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to reveal will either transform your next 7 days into the most powerful week of your life, or you'll dismiss it and remain exactly where you are wondering why breakthrough never comes. The number 7 appears in Scripture 735 times, not by accident, not by chance, by divine design. 7 days of creation, 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 churches. But here's what most believers never understand. 7 isn't just a number. It's God's signature on completion, His fingerprint on breakthrough, His timestamp on miracles. Right now, as these words pierce your spirit, heaven is initiating a 7-day countdown over your life. Not 7 months, not 7 years, 7 days. And what happens in the next 168 hours will either confirm you've been chosen for such a time as this, or you'll miss the divine appointment that's been orchestrated since before you drew breath. You've been circling your Jericho for years, haven't you? That financial mountain that refuses to move, that health battle that won't break, that relationship that stays broken, that calling you've buried under decades of disappointment. You've marched around those walls so many times you've worn a groove in the ground with your tears. But here's what Joshua's army didn't know. On day 6, the walls were already cracking, not from their footsteps, from God's voice. Every silent march around impossibility was heaven preparing the structural collapse of everything that's held you captive. Think about this. Noah didn't just build an ark and immediately see rain. Genesis 7:4 tells us God said, 7 days from now I will send rain. 7 days of final preparation. 7 days of people mocking his obedience. 7 days when everything looked exactly the same as it had for decades. But on day 8, the floodgates of heaven opened. The same God who gave Noah a 7-day warning is giving you one right now. Not because judgment is coming, because breakthrough is. The floodgates aren't opening to destroy. They're opening to deliver. To wash away everything that's held you in bondage and flood your life with the abundance you've prayed for in secret. Write down today's date. Right now. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Write it down and circle it. Because 7 days from today, you're going to look back at this moment and realize something supernatural began the instant you heard these words. But why 7 days? Why not immediately? Because God's timing isn't about your convenience, it's about your character. Those 7 days aren't delay, they're development. Every hour between now and your breakthrough is God preparing you to handle what's coming. Stretching your faith. Strengthening your spiritual muscles, expanding your capacity to contain the miracle. You see, most people want microwaved miracles, instant answers, fast food faith. But God operates in slow-cooked transformation, like wine that gets better with time, like gold that gets purer in the furnace. 7 days isn't just countdown, it's conditioning. Here's what's going to happen in your 7 days, and I need you to pay attention, because missing this pattern could cost you everything. Day 1 through day 6, it's going to look like nothing is changing. Your bank account will look the same. Your medical reports might read the same. Your family dynamics will feel the same. The enemy will whisper, "See? Nothing happened. It was just emotional manipulation." That's the test. That's when most people turn back. They want fireworks on day 1. But God's greatest miracles happen in whispers before they roar in victory. On day 7, Joshua's army didn't just march once around Jericho. They marched 7 times. Then they shouted, not because they saw the walls falling, because they believed God's voice over their circumstances. And those walls, ancient and massive, didn't just develop cracks, they collapsed completely. Archaeologists have found evidence that Jericho's walls fell outward, not inward, defying every law of physics when a city is under siege. Your walls are about to defy logic too. But here's the part that will either elevate you or eliminate you from this promise. Your response in the next 7 days determines everything. If you spend these days complaining, doubting, looking for human solutions to divine problems, you'll miss what God is orchestrating behind the scenes. If you spend these 7 days in worship, in expectation, in radical trust that the God who spoke worlds into existence is speaking breakthrough over your life, you'll witness what many believers talk about, but few ever experience the supernatural collision of heaven's timing with earth's impossibilities. Daniel fasted for 21 days before his breakthrough came, but Scripture tells us the answer was released from heaven on day 1. The delay wasn't God's hesitation, it was spiritual warfare. For 20 days, angels fought demonic principalities to deliver what God had already decreed. Your 7-day prophecy isn't about God needing time to decide. It's about clearing the spiritual atmosphere for your miracle to manifest. Every single morning for the next 7 days, when you open your eyes, remember this: you're not just waking up to another day. You're waking up to another day closer to the divine appointment that will split your life into before and after. Day 7 isn't just the end of a week. It's the beginning of your new reality. And when day 7 arrives, when you've walked in faith through the countdown, when you've trusted God's voice above your circumstances, something will shift. Not just around you, within you. You'll carry a different authority, speak with different confidence, move with different purpose. Because you'll know, beyond any doubt, that when the Creator of the universe speaks a timeline over your life, nothing in hell can delay it, nothing on earth can deny it, and nothing in your past can disqualify it. 7 days from now, you will look back at this moment and know this wasn't just a message. This was a prophecy with your name written across every word. Your countdown begins now. Dear chosen one, something sacred is happening to you right now. Can you feel it? That burning in your chest isn't heartburn from last night's dinner. That restlessness in your spirit isn't just old age anxiety. That's the fire of God moving through your bones, and He's about to show you why every furnace you've walked through was preparing you for this moment. You think you've been dying slowly for years, don't you? Watching your strength fade, your dreams shrink, your world gets smaller. But what if I told you that what you thought was dying was actually birthing? What if every loss, every tear, every sleepless night was labor pains for what God is about to deliver through you? Listen to me carefully. You are not just surviving the fire, you are becoming the fire. Remember Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? 3 men thrown into a furnace, heated 7 times hotter than normal. The guards who threw them in died from the heat, but these 3 walked around in those flames like it was a spring morning in Central Park. But here's what most preachers won't tell you. When King Nebuchadnezzar looked into that furnace, he didn't see 3 men, he saw 4. And the 4th one looked like the Son of God. You've been in your furnace for decades, haven't you? The furnace of watching your spouse die, the furnace of children who've grown cold, the furnace of a body that betrays you more each morning, the furnace of financial fear that keeps you awake at 3 a.m. But beloved, you haven't been burning alone. The 4th man has been in there with you the whole time. And now he's saying, it's time to come out. But here's the shocking truth that will rock you to your core. What walks out of that furnace isn't the same as what walked in. The fire didn't destroy you. It transformed you. Every flame that licked at your faith only burned away what wasn't supposed to be there. Your fear, your doubt, your need for people's approval, your addiction to comfort. What's left is pure gold. Isaiah 61:3 declares that God will give you beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. But notice something. He doesn't throw away the ashes. He transforms them. Your ashes become beauty. Your mourning becomes joy. Your heaviness becomes praise. This is not the end of your story. This is the rebirth. This is not the grave where dreams go to die. This is the garden where miracles grow. This is not your sunset. This is your sunrise. Right now, as I speak these words, something ancient is stirring in your spirit. Something that's been dormant for years is cracking open like a seed that's been buried in winter soil. You thought it was dead, but it was just waiting for the right season, waiting for the right temperature, waiting for the right moment, when God says, now. You know what your problem has been? You've been measuring your life by human standards instead of heaven's timeline. The world looks at your gray hair and sees decline. God looks at your gray hair and sees a crown of glory earned through fire. The world sees your wrinkles and calls them damage. God sees your wrinkles and calls them wisdom carved by experience. You're not aging out, beloved. You're aging into your authority. Think about a piece of steel being forged. Does the blacksmith apologize to the metal for putting it in the fire? Does he feel sorry for hammering it on the anvil? No, because he knows that fire and pressure are what transform ordinary iron into a blade that can cut through anything. You've been on God's anvil for 70, 80, maybe 90 years. Every blow that made you cry, "Why me, Lord?" was actually shaping you into a weapon of righteousness. Every flame that made you question His goodness was actually burning away your impurities. And now you're ready, not for retirement, for deployment. But here's what terrifies hell about you right now. You've stopped caring what people think. When you've buried enough dreams and survived enough storms, you reach a place where only God's opinion matters. That's not bitterness, beloved. That's freedom. That's the fire burning away your need for human validation. Moses was 80 when God called him from the burning bush. 80. The world would have put him in a nursing home, but God put him in charge of a nation. Why? Because it took 80 years of fire to forge a man who could stand before Pharaoh without trembling. Sarah was 90 when God promised her a child. 90. Her womb was dead. Her hope was buried. But God specializes in resurrections. Why did He wait so long? Because He needed a woman whose faith had been refined by decades of waiting. A woman who knew that only God could do the impossible. This is not the end. This is the rebirth. This is not the grave. This is the garden. This is not your winter. This is your spring. Can you feel it happening? That stirring in your chest isn't anxiety, it's anticipation. Your spirit recognizes what your mind hasn't caught up to yet. You're not winding down, you're powering up. Every prayer you thought went unanswered was actually being stored in heaven's warehouse. And now God is releasing them all at once. You've been through the furnace, dear one. But what walked into that fire is not what's walking out. You've been refined. You've been purified. You've been transformed from a victim into a victor, from a survivor into a warrior, from someone who endures the fire into someone who commands it. You are reborn for glory, and the world is about to see what happens when fire meets purpose. But the question burning in your heart right now is this: if God has truly been transforming you all this time, if you're really being reborn for something greater, then what exactly is He calling you to do with this new fire He's placed within you? Listen to me carefully. Chosen one, while you've been sitting in that chair, wondering why your prayers seem to echo in empty rooms, something extraordinary has been happening in the invisible realm. Heaven has been moving pieces on a cosmic chessboard, and you, yes, you are not a forgotten pawn. You are the king that everything else revolves around. The people who left you were supposed to leave. The doors that closed were supposed to close. The delays were divine design. I know that cuts deep, doesn't it? That friend who turned their back when you needed them most. That job that disappeared just when you thought you were secure. That diagnosis that shattered your plans. You called it betrayal. You called it bad luck. You called it the end of your story. But what if I told you it was actually the beginning? Picture this. God sits at a chessboard that stretches across eternity. Every piece represents someone in your life. Every move calculated with precision that would make Einstein weep. That spouse who walked away, they were blocking your path to something greater. That business that failed, it was preventing you from the true calling burning in your bones. That child who stopped calling. Their absence is creating space for spiritual children you haven't met yet. The people who left you were supposed to leave. The doors that closed were supposed to close. The delays were divine design. Romans 8:28 isn't just a pretty verse to cross-stitch on a pillow. All things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to His purpose. All things. Not some things, not the easy things. All things, including that foreclosure notice, that funeral you never thought you'd attend, that silence from children who once hung on your every word. You've been staring at individual threads, wondering why they're so dark, so twisted, so painful. But God has been weaving a tapestry. Step back, no. Let me pull you back and look at what He's creating. Every broken relationship was a thread of protection. Every financial loss was a thread of redirection. Every tear you've cried was a thread of purification. The tapestry isn't finished, dear one, but the pattern is becoming clear. Think about Ruth, a widow, a foreigner, gleaning leftover grain in fields that belonged to strangers. If you met her in that barley field, bent over, collecting scraps, you'd have said, "Poor woman, life has beaten her down." But Boaz was watching, not coincidentally, not accidentally, divinely. Ruth didn't know she was walking into her destiny with every step she took in that field. You've been Ruth, haven't you? Picking up scraps, wondering if this is all life has left for you. But your Boaz moment is coming. That divine collision where everything changes in an instant. The people who left you were supposed to leave. The doors that closed were supposed to close. The delays were divine design. Here's what's happening right now while you're listening to my voice. Heaven is in full orchestration mode. That phone call you're going to receive next week, it's already been arranged. That person you'll bump into at the grocery store next month, they're being positioned. That opportunity that seems impossible, the path is being cleared as we speak. But here's the part that will shake you. You've been asking God to change your circumstances. He's been changing your capacity. You've been praying for doors to open. He's been building your character to handle what's behind those doors. You've been begging for the pain to stop. He's been using that pain to expand your heart so you can hold more joy than you ever imagined possible. Do you realize what this means? Every rejection was protection. Every delay was preparation. Every loss was positioning. While you thought God was silent, He was working overtime, moving mountains you couldn't see, opening doors you hadn't even discovered yet. That depression that nearly killed you, it was teaching you empathy for souls drowning in despair. That financial ruin that left you eating beans and rice for months, it was destroying your dependence on money so you could depend on Him. That loneliness that echoes through your empty house, it's creating space for divine encounters that would be impossible in a crowded life. The Master is repositioning you, not as punishment, but as promotion. Not to hurt you, but to heal a broken world through you. Every senior citizen feels forgotten by society, but you're about to be found by destiny. Heaven is rearranging the stage, and you are about to step into the spotlight of your purpose. Can you feel it stirring? That inexplicable sense that something massive is about to shift. That's not your imagination. That's prophetic sensitivity. God is about to pull back the curtain and show you what He's been orchestrating while you thought you were abandoned. The chess pieces are in position. The tapestry threads are aligned. Your Boaz moment is approaching. But here's the urgent question that will determine everything. When heaven opens the door it's been preparing for decades, will you be ready to walk through it? Or will you let fear convince you that you're too old, too broken, too late for miracles? Because what I'm about to reveal next will prove that your greatest chapter isn't behind you, it's about to begin. Beloved chosen one, we've walked through sacred ground together tonight. You've felt the fire stirring in your bones. You've recognized the pain as preparation, the scars as signatures from heaven itself. You've witnessed how the enemy attacked you precisely because he saw what God planted in you before you were born. You've heard the trumpet sound 7 times around your Jericho walls. You felt the flames of divine refinement burning away everything that held you back. You've seen how heaven has been aligning every broken piece of your story into a masterpiece of purpose. But now comes the moment that separates the hearers from the doers. The moment that divides those who feel inspired from those who step into their destiny. Right now, as these words penetrate your spirit, you stand at the same crossroads where Moses stood before the burning bush, where Esther stood before approaching the king's throne, where David stood facing Goliath with nothing but a sling and supernatural confidence. This is your burning bush moment, dear one, and God is waiting for your answer. But here's what terrifies me for you. Here's what keeps me awake at night praying for souls exactly like yours. I've watched too many chosen ones walk away from this very moment. I've seen too many seniors, beautiful, faithful, tested by fire, saints hear God's voice clearly, feel their spirits ignite with purpose, and then choose silence over their calling. They walk away thinking they have time. They convince themselves they'll respond tomorrow, next week, when they feel more ready. They let the enemy whisper one more lie. You're too old. It's too late. God's moved on to someone younger. And they miss it. They miss the very destiny they were born for. Listen to me with every fiber of your being. God doesn't give you a burning bush experience just to let you walk away unchanged. He doesn't speak through divine interruption just to be ignored. When the Creator of the universe stops everything to get your attention, when He arranges circumstances to place this message directly in your path, when He stirs your heart with recognition and hope, that's not casual conversation. That's a divine summons. Do you remember what happened to Jonah when he tried to ignore God's call? The storm wasn't punishment. It was love pursuing him back to his purpose. If you're feeling any storm in your life right now, if circumstances seem to be pressing in from every side, maybe, just maybe, it's heaven saying, I won't let you run from what you were born to do. The children of Israel had to march around Jericho for 7 days. 7 days of what looked like meaningless walking. 7 days when nothing visible changed. But on that 7th day, when they opened their mouths and shouted in faith, those walls that had stood for generations crumbled in an instant. You've been walking around your walls for years, haven't you? The walls of limitation, of doubt, of thinking your season has passed. But tonight is your 7th day. Tonight is your shout of faith. Tonight those walls come down, but only if you open your mouth. Here's what I need you to understand about this moment. It carries weight that tomorrow won't have. This isn't just another inspirational message you'll forget by morning. This is Kairos time, God's appointed moment, when eternity intersects with your earthly situation. In the next 60 seconds, you will make a choice that echoes through heaven. You will either step into your calling or step away from it. You will either embrace the truth that you are chosen, marked, and sent, or you'll let fear convince you to stay small one more time. If you ignore Him now, you risk losing the very destiny you were born for. Not because God gives up on you, but because some windows only stay open for appointed seasons. Some invitations carry expiration dates known only to heaven. I'm calling you right now to stand up wherever you are. Yes, physically stand. Let your body declare what your spirit knows is true. And I want you to speak these words out loud with authority. I will not ignore you, Lord. I receive my call. Say it again, louder. I will not ignore you, Lord. I receive my call. Now type in the comments. Let the world witness your declaration. I am chosen. I am ready. Don't think about it, don't edit it, just declare it. Because when you speak what heaven has spoken over you, angels take notes and demons flee. Listen to me whisper this truth over your life. This is not coincidence. This is your burning bush, your Jericho shout, your Red Sea crossing, your Esther decree. Your moment is now. The same fire that burned in that bush without consuming it is burning in your chest right now. The same power that parted the waters for Moses is parting the obstacles in your path. The same courage that filled Esther's heart as she said, if I perish, is filling your spirit this very moment. Do not ignore Him, beloved, because heaven has waited your whole life for this very moment when you finally say yes to who you've always been. Beloved chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to carry these eternal truths with you, like treasures in your heart. Remember this, your pain was never punishment, it was preparation. Every scar you carry is a signature from heaven, marking you as one who has been tested and proven faithful. The enemy attacked you so fiercely because he recognized the treasure God placed within you before you were born. Remember that your age is not your limitation, it's your qualification. Moses was 80 when God called him to his greatest work. Sarah was 90 when she birthed nations. Your gray hair is not a sign of decline, but a crown of wisdom earned through decades of walking with the Almighty. Remember that this message finding you was no accident. Heaven interrupted your night, your scrolling, your restless thoughts because your time has come. The burning bush is before you, the Red Sea is parting, and God is calling your name with the same authority He used to speak worlds into existence. But beloved, I need you to know something deeper than knowledge, something that settles in your bones. You are not walking this path alone. Even when the road feels uncertain, even when others don't understand your calling, even when doubt whispers lies in your ear, the God who created you is still working on your behalf. He's moving mountains you can't see, opening doors you haven't found yet, and orchestrating blessings that will leave you speechless. And right here, in this community of believers, you have thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your journey. We're not just viewers on a screen, we're family in the Spirit. We see you, we believe in you, we will pray for you. Let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. Now that you know who you really are, a chosen vessel, marked by heaven, called for such a time as this, how will you walk differently when you wake up tomorrow morning? I want you to share in the comments below what God spoke to your heart tonight. Don't hold back. Your testimony might be exactly what another chosen one needs to hear. Ask us to pray for specific areas of your life. Let this community surround you with intercession and encouragement. And if this message has touched your soul, please share it with someone who needs to hear these words. There's a person in your life right now, maybe a friend, a family member, someone from church who feels forgotten, overlooked, convinced their best days are behind them. They need to know they're chosen too. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart, for letting these words penetrate the sacred chambers of your soul. Thank you for being brave enough to believe that maybe, just maybe, God still has mighty plans for your life. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell. We're building something beautiful here, a community where chosen ones gather to be encouraged, equipped, and reminded of their divine calling. Before I release you into your destiny, let me place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with the authority of 5 decades, walking with the Almighty. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has heard this message tonight. Lord, you see their hearts, you know their struggles, you've counted every tear they've cried in secret, but Father, you also see their crown, you know their calling, you've already written their victory story. God, I pray that you would silence every voice of doubt that has whispered you're too old. I pray that you would break every chain of limitation that has held them captive. I pray that you would open their eyes to see the doors you're already opening, the opportunities you're already creating, the miracles you're already releasing. Place your mighty hand upon them right now, Lord. Let them feel your presence like a warm embrace. Give them dreams that direct them. Give them visions that guide them. Give them divine connections that accelerate their purpose. Surround them with people who recognize the anointing on their lives. Father, bless their health, strengthen their bodies, renew their minds. Provide for their every need according to your riches in glory. Protect them from every weapon formed against them. Let them walk in divine favor that opens doors no man can shut. Most of all, God, remind them daily that they are loved beyond measure, chosen beyond doubt, and destined for greatness beyond their wildest dreams. Let them wake up each morning knowing that this is the day you have made for their breakthrough. In Jesus' mighty name, I seal this prayer with faith, hope, and unshakable love. Amen. Chosen one, your divine appointment is complete, but your assignment is just beginning. Go in peace, go in power, go in the unshakable knowledge that heaven is cheering you on. Until we meet again, remember, you are chosen, you are loved, you are never alone.